so freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling, episode 90, Windy City Classic, with our very special guest, the good Dr. Keith Lipinski. What's going on, Keith?
Not that much. Thanks, Juice Buddy, for having me on your fine program, and thanks to everyone that's listening. And most importantly, Merry Christmas. Happy third or fourth day of Hanukkah. For those that celebrate Kwanzaa, I'm not sure about the calendar. Basically, happy everything to everybody. Thank you for taking the time to listen, of course, to the Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast.
That's right. We're live in living color on Christmas Day. That's a first for us. So I hope you all enjoy what we're about to deliver, dropping those treats for all you good boys and girls out there.
Now, just to make sure, we promised no gifts, right, guys?
No.
I have absolutely nothing, like literally less than nothing to give to you guys. The only thing I can give you is the gift of conversation, which does not have a retail value. And unfortunately, I lost the gift receipt for it, so you're stuck with it.
Well, we all come with empty hands, but with the gift of entertainment. So that's all we offer, and we offer it at a high level, we like to say. So if you're in your cars listening to this, if you just got done fist fighting someone at Walmart over a $4 DVD copy of Three Ninjas, well, we're the ones that could bring you back down to earth and entertain you. Tell you it's okay. Christmas is cool.
The one with the Hulkster in it, by the way.
Yeah, that's the thing where I'm hoping it's the one that has Hulkster in it, because otherwise, with that awesome fake head of hair that he had that he used in that match with Macho Man Randy Savage.
And he shoved it down his
that
throat.
Halloween Havoc 96, maybe?
It was... yeah, it was somewhere around there. I remember that. What was that? It was like Three Ninjas, High Noon, or something Mountain. It was like the third one. I
believe three Ninjas at Splash Mountain, maybe. Or I believe the lovely America's Sweetheart a long, long time ago, Lonnie Anderson also was in that movie. So the fact you have Hulk Hogan and Lonnie Anderson in the movie together really makes it something that's worth the $3.99 that you would get at Walmart. And potentially, like $6.99 with a 2-pack with Santa with muscles, which is on nobody's best Christmas movie list.
That is correct.
Jacked Santa.
Hogan, man, for being such a huge superstar, he just said yes to everything. Every shitty movie they threw at him,
Well, you got to remember something, boys. Like, as we grow older, our bodies tend to fall apart. Wrestlers' bodies fall apart at a faster rate than normal humans or podcasters like you and myself and everyone else. So, like, the fact that, okay, I could sit there and hit people, slap people with a weightlifting belt, or I can deliver lines with Lonnie Anderson. I know what I'm doing.
You did lines with Lonnie Anderson?
Well, probably he did lines. Those lovely Walmart sweaters that they let it snow on it. He probably all about that. So.
Right.
As long as it wasn't with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife, he could do whatever he wants.
Hey, brother. God, what a setup for that. So, Keith, let's get into talking. Go ahead, man.
We're not going to talk about Hulk Hogan's dick hair, guy.
Oh, man.
What kind of Christmas party is this? We're not talking about
I think the tanning bed.
Hogan's dick hair.
I think the tanning bed burnt all that shit off with the rest of his hair.
What you gonna do?
Yeah, I love the Hulkster, but he is kind of like the worst person ever.
How dare you?
Yeah. I mean, the whole getting recorded and saying things about other people is not good. And we're not recording this, right? So whatever I say on here is fine. So between the three of us and anyone that's listening to the show on their way to and from their grandmother's house.
That's right.
Right. Getting everybody hyped up for grandma.
We had what? We got some stats from Libsyn recently, Stratton here. And apparently the majority of our listeners are grandmothers, like old women over the age of 68. So good for us.
Depends.
We're keeping. Depends, which is going to be a future sponsor. We're
great product. I don't know if you guys have ever used them, but I mean, just really, I want to use the word game changer because people would associate that with shellac. Fine product, and also there's probably a small demographic within that large demographic of grandmothers that have had sex with Paul Stanley as kids. So I think we'll be making some Star Child references out there, everybody.
The Star Child. You wanted the best. You got the best.
The hottest band on my block. Yes.
Jesus Christ. What have we got ourselves into? It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. Let's reel it in.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Kissmas, baby. The Kiss version of Christmas, of course.
Hell yeah.
Oh wow, I'm shocked that Gene. I hope you guys have a good legal department, because I bet Gene Simmons will probably sue us.
Oh yeah, he's coming in very big, very hard, very stiff.
Oh, I don't want to hear about Gene Simmons being hard and stiff or being anywhere around my grandma.
Well, I mean, fuck. I mean, I'd let him around my grandma with a tongue like that, you know. Grandma needs some love.
Sure, Grandma would love that. And then get back to the Depends, an official sponsor of the Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Yep.
Wow. I'm sorry that this podcast is already falling off a cliff. I assume that there could be more things to talk about than Hulk Hogan's Python, and of course grandmothers who have had sex with members of Kiss that weren't the late great Eric Carr. But obviously, we should be here talking about a big, huge event coming up. And no, I'm not talking about the day after Christmas. I'm talking about a few days after Christmas, AAW's big, huge 15th annual Windy City Classic.
That's right, on December 28th at 115 Bourbon Street, which is in Marionette Park, Illinois, starting at 7:30 p.m. And you can actually, this is the first time, I believe, right? You can catch you guys live on pay-per-view on Fight TV.
This is the first time that we are working with the fine people at Fight TV to give everyone the AAW experience. So it's something where we wanted to go streaming for a while now, and it just took finding a good partner to work with. And I'm very excited about it because of the fact that, you know, we've done live streaming in the past through our good friends at the High Spot Video Network. And it's something where there's sort of an expectation in 2019 to provide that content. There's so much wrestling content right now. Like, as you and I, as we're talking, and it's Christmas Day, there's probably 27 independent shows that are going on somewhere right now.
Right.
So, like, people aren't used to the back in the day where, you know, you would have to wait a week or so. Like, I mean, you damn kids don't remember the hardships of 2005 and ROH shows happening and having to wait a few weeks to get a sweet VHS copy in the mail of a show, or potentially, like myself, having to go to one of 3 Japanese book/video stores in Chicago in order to find the latest New Japan tape. It was pretty awful anyway in 2005. Like, the times have changed. The internet wrestling fan wants it. I mean, humans in general, they want that instant gratification. They don't want to sit there and wait right away. They want to get it. They just want to sit there and go on that buffet line and put their head right into the ambrosia salad and eat all the grapes out of it. So because of that, and because of, you know, it's basically demands from the fans. Like, the fans sort of first and last are the boss of what we do, and they sort of dictate what we do as a company. They don't dictate everything we do, because that would be that would be suicide, ladies and gentlemen. But I mean, like,
we've
fans
seen the
have been
Twitter
asking
posts
for this for a while.
Well, you guys, I mean, just looking at the card, you guys always have an insane lineup. I've been looking to get a representative from AAW on the show. This will be, I think we'll go into our second year here in March, around March or April.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
So it's really an honor to have you on here. And you guys always have a stacked card. I know my buddy Derek Ratface Martha from the band Blunt and Minimum Wage Assassins. He's out there from DeKalb. He's always hitting you guys up. I unfortunately haven't caught a show yet live in person. I've watched through YouTube and all that, but that's right. That's gonna change here. I'm gonna get crucified here on Christmas. You know, 'tis the season.
Wow! Crucified on Christmas was originally going to be the title of the first Windy City Classic, but we decided really the populace is not ready for a title like Crucified for Christmas. But the Windy City Classic definitely has a more exciting ring to it. So, and this is a 15th annual one. And the good thing about this being on Fight TV is the fact that this is definitely our showcase card. And I like the fact that it's the last event of the year, because then it's sort of the end of the book of AAW of 2019, or at least this huge chapter intersection. And we start fresh, of course, in January at the beautiful Logan Square Auditorium. But before that, we have, rivalries to settle, hopefully, and, stars debuting and lots of stuff going on this weekend on Fight TV. We do have Sneak Blast. So if you are in the greater Chicagoland or Indiana area, please don't hesitate to come to 115 Bourbon Street in beautiful Marionette Park. Parking, of course, isn't a factor like in other buildings around the Chicagoland area. And definitely bring some beer money and hopefully have a good time watching some of the best talent, independent wrestling talent, not only in the U.S., but the world, diverging into AEW at 115 Bourbon Street. So, it's something where I love going to work there and seeing all this talent that's in there, and just thinking about going through, past Windy City Classics and looking at some of the people that have been on these shows. Of course, it was on the Windy City Classic that we had the world famous Merrick Brave versus Tyler Black, better known as the WWE Seth Rollins, in a no-rope barbed wire match at the Berwyn Eagles Club back in the day. We had recently released on YouTube Tommaso Ciampa versus Ray Phoenix, which was the opening match at the Windy City Classic a few years ago. So looking through, if I sit there and check out Michael Watson's fantastic The Wrestlers 2 Polaroid Portraits book, which is just a wonderful book, the majority of the talent has made their way through AAW. Like, AAW has become a destination for any independent wrestler that wants to make their mark. And definitely things will be settled this weekend at 115 Bourbon Street. And most importantly, if you're shut in, you don't have to leave the house. We can come to you. We're not going to bring the show to you, of course. You will have to pay a certain amount of money on Fight TV. But for that money, you will basically get as close to the AEW experience as possible without the smell of stale beer or the fear of Matthew Justice jumping out of the balcony and falling on you. So that's really that's a plus right there.
Which he's been known to do. And speaking of Matthew Justice, shout out to him. He worked with our homeboy Bill Alfonso, who has been a guest of the show this year, which I thought was really cool. Did a couple of dates with Bill. And speaking of the talent, and real quick, I got to put over some Chicago beer. Drinking a Revolution Brewing Anti-Hero as we speak, which is to be followed up by our own Indiana Three Floyds Zombie Dust. So I got to plug those guys too, because they fucking.
You guys got to get a nice sponsorship, a beer sponsorship and such.
Yeah, we do. We like to get wet. You know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
We're working.
Who doesn't like to get wet?
That's right. I wanted real quick because you're talking about Matthew Justice and the insane talent I want to let people know some of the talent that they're going to be seeing on this card, and if you do buy the pay-per-view on Fight, you get to watch it repeatedly however many times you want. Like, it's pretty much like owning it.
Yes.
So Matthew Justice, you bring him up. He will be facing Killer Cross in the match that was just recently announced, one of your last matches to be announced. That's huge, considering Killer Cross is no longer under contract to anybody. So he's doing stuff with you guys. He's going to be doing stuff I just saw with MLW, which is another huge promotion that we're really into. You guys got Jessica Havoc. You got Chris Statlander for all you AEW fans out there. Josh Alexander, Fatu. You guys, who else? You got Jimmy Jacobs, Mance Warner, or a.k.a. Good Brother number 3.
Yeah, man. Let's make sure Mance Warner, I unfortunately have to toe the company line as an AEW executive or head of talented relations. Mance Warner no longer works for AEW, but this Good Brother number 3 is quite a popular character, and potentially I've heard rumbling in the Wrestling Observer Rookie of the Year, he potentially is going to be in 3rd place this year. So.
Nice.
Well, congratulations to you, Good Brother number 3.
Right. Got David
whoever
Starr.
you may be, congratulations.
Yeah. You mysterious man under your mysterious mask.
Eddie Kingston, David Starr, Kurt Stallion, Jake something. It is Kurt Stallion. Kimber Lee. I mean, you guys are always packing the house, man. Like, here's what I need to ask you, since you're being, what exactly is your role for all the people out there listening? with AAW?
My role is basically I am in charge of most of the video promos that you see that air. You know, I basically attend to so many show matters during the course of the day. I assist with the bookings of the show. Sometimes the talent selection is done through me, so it's more of a jack of all trades,
right,
than anything else. Like it's not like I can give you the AEW organizational structure. And well, I could actually, if you wanted to see it real quick. But I mean, like, you know, I basically work with the two owners. I work very closely to the top two AEW owners and both give them insight and information. And during the course of the show, I basically wrangle the cast and just basically try to avoid any common issues during the course of the show. But I mean, most of the time, you'll hear me backstage shooting promos with the talent to promote the event that's upcoming. Update any storylines that are up there, or also get ready for any future things that are coming down the pipe. So it's sort of a jack off of all trades. Guys.
Yeah, I like that. You guys got doing some of the interviews backstage. Another friend of the show, Sarah Shockey.
Oh, great girl, that Sarah Joy Shockey. You know,
Merry Christmas,
full
Sarah.
Of crazy enthusiasm and fun. I'm a big fan of Sarah. I wish I could use Sarah more in all segments, but there's some times where the subject matter is a little bit too serious, and I don't need someone singing during promos. But no, Sarah is great. Is a great talent. Her friend Martin is okay, I guess. No, I'm kidding. Martin debaucherous, of course, is our color commentator.
Yep.
I love having those guys as part of our team. I think they work pretty well together. I think they might be hooking up as well. So they might be.
I've heard
they might be. They might be. You know, like I think Marty's probably pounding some Blue Chew right now while listening to this.
Yeah, you know he is. Hey, we're the only wrestling podcast or anything affiliated with wrestling that doesn't. You know, we don't need the Blue Chew.
Yeah. We just need a beer sponsor.
Well,
Depends sponsor.
Yeah, we just need diapers and beer, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Well, you have different priorities, like than other people.
I
like,
guess
you're
so.
not. If the sex happens with you guys, you're all down with that. You're cool. You're fun with that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, like having some beer and like definitely pissing yourself is definitely the way to go.
Or pulling a Gigi Allen and pissing on other people, you know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's where it gets a little tricky. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like scat humor, that's always fun and stuff like that. I was, to me, Gigi Allen was more fun. The thought of Gigi Allen seemed a lot more fun. And then worried about getting, shit tossed at you was just, I do regret there was one time I believe Gigi Allen played like the China Club or Excalibur in Chicago, and I did not go there.
I have that on DVD.
I don't really have that many regrets in life, and that definitely is not one of them, because it wasn't like he was known for his musical talent. I mean, if you take away like You Don't Like Me So I Say Fuck You, like that's a fantastic song. Like his early stuff is good. His later stuff is just not so good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, his early stuff he could actually like sing a little bit. And I'll tell you what, I'm actually a big fan of his cover of God damn it, his name's escaping me right now. Werewolf of London.
The Warren Zevon classic.
Yeah, Carmelita. Carmelita.
He could do a good job of that, But like I think Gigi Allen is a good example to not only punk rockers but wrestlers alike, where you can only be so much of your gimmick, because when you become all gimmick all the time, it seems to get tiring very quickly.
It does. And we sit here and joke around and laugh or whatever, and I do enjoy a lot of his music for various reasons. I mean, it's not like I'm sitting there like, oh my God, this guy's musical prowess is, like you said, but it's the thought, and with being, somewhat of I grew up as a young angry punk, like I was like, man, this guy is like the real deal. He just don't give a fuck about anything, or at least that's what he portrayed. He
portrayed it very well, though.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, I assume you've probably seen Hatred. You probably know it line by line and such. He portrayed his gimmick of not giving a fuck to its fullest, probably because he did not give a fuck, because he was very deep into the heroin addiction.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's a junkie. But whatever. Gigi to me is just like you need that balance of good and evil, and he was just an evil motherfucker, and I don't know. Not that whatever.
Can you imagine if he was still around?
Oh, I can't.
Like,
not in this day and age.
Like for him, like I remember.
He'd be in prison again.
Reading the Maximum Rock and Roll when he died. when Jimmy O'Hannon did a wonderful, touching tribute to his friend Gigi and how he was just sitting there in the coffin. Or it might have been
the video. There's video of that on
Curious George, but yeah, it's wow. So
it's a little fucked up. So as we're talking in about Gigi Allen, quick segue. I want to get more into like your musical background, because I could have swore were you wearing I was creeping on your Facebook page as I was looking for pictures for the promo. I thought I saw you wearing a Crass t-shirt. Am I wrong?
I probably was wearing a Culture Shock t-shirt.
Culture Shock,
instead. Yeah. So I like Crass. Don't get me wrong. I think they've always been a good band. But like Culture Shock is a power violence band from where are they from? They're from Denver, Colorado. Like if you're familiar with Charles Bronson,
I actually
Wolfpack bands out there.
I'm actually boys with a lot of those dudes. See, I play my band Handsome Prick. We've me and a bunch of our buddies. Well, me and my drummer Brad Vanderzee have been in the music, like the underground. You want to call it death grind or death metal grind, power violence scene for like probably since like 2000. So all those bands and stuff like guys from Charles Bronson and all that shit. We hung out with a lot of those dudes. Like they're DeKalb cats. We kind of like we played out there so much that was kind of like our second home. And then touring and doing all this other shit. But back in the day we were in a band called Decrypt. Check out like if you into that stuff, Holy Erotic Rapture, Armageddon Anthems. We're on Bandcamp and all that. I think there's still Holy Erotic's on iTunes. Probably the most underrated grindcore album of all time, or at least the last 20 years. But yeah, and we're going strong still with Handsome Prick, and it's really cool, like to meet someone like you that can appreciate and know of like bands like we just say Charles Bronson. It's like, yeah, dude, I got their whole catalog. Like, I'm good boys with the drummer. Man, it's just so fucking awesome to hear someone say that. Like that's what I like in wrestling, because we're a big wrestling thing, right? There's this whole concept of Juice Pro Wrestling. And then there's this kind of little miniature thing that we're starting, this kind of freaking nature that's on the side. It's like an extra arm appendage creeping out called the JPDUB. And we just, we like to talk about all that other extra curricular stuff that's fun, that people like to talk about, like music and video games and horror and all that good shit. So please indulge me, sir.
Oh, I mean, it's something where, I was big when I went to college. I went to UIC, and the majority of my free time was spent going to various record stores in Chicago, like the, Tower Records, Reckless Records, the Quaker Goes Deaf. And there was a really cool record shop on Grand Avenue called the Dummy Room that was run by Joey Vindictive of the Chicago punk band The Vindictives. And through going to punk shows, I met the majority of the friends that I have now were people that I either met through wrestling or punk rock. So there was a lot. It's weird how it's sort of like I really got into punk rock around like 1992. And that's sort of the year where I was a big wrestling fan before that. And then sort of the wrestling stopped for a few years, and it was all about the music.
Yeah. Did you ever play in any bands?
Music. No, never played. I've never really been that musically gifted, which is weird because my son has played, and my son's 10, and he currently plays saxophone, and last year he played bass. Nice. And I tried to get him to keep on bass so he can be in a rockabilly band one day and be like in the next indentation of Hi-Fi and the fucking Roadburners or something like that. So, but I mean, the majority of my friends, are you familiar with a pop punk band? I still like pop punk a lot. I mean, the pop punk is a side of me that'll never end. Well, are you familiar with a band called 88 Fingers Louie by any chance?
You know what? I've heard that name. I'm sure I've heard some of their music, but I've never really dug into the guys. So, yeah. Okay.
The 88 Fingers Louie, one of my best friends, Dennis, has been the front man for that band. And a long time ago, Maximum Rock and Roll would have this magazine that would come out called Book Your Own Fucking Life, which was a tour guide for it would be a band listings and venue listings and everything else. for bands that wanted to sit there and tour, like there were rocks, like tour all over, and connections. And someone put in there a band for me called Lipinski, basically it was a diss on me with my home address and my parents' home phone number. Thankfully, no one ever called. And some of the songs that were listed on there were all my friends were in popular bands. The reason why I bring this up is because Dennis from 88 Fingers Louie, they have a song on the Fat Records comp. I think it's like 101 songs, but all of them are under a minute.
Yeah.
And the name of that song is All My Friends Are in Popular Bands, based off that. So, it's something where I still to this day are very close with people that I knew back in the day. And I knew the Bronson guys. Like I was very tight with the Michiganas. Another great band from DeKalb who later on became some of the guys from the Repos. I think actually I want to say that I watched WrestleMania 12, the Brett and Shawn Iron Man match with Ebro from Bronson and also Craig Anarchy from the Michiganas later on the Repos. So I definitely have my punk thread that I could throw out every once in a while that most people don't give a fuck about.
Keith, you kind of snuck in a little rockabilly.
You got Stratton Wet.
Yeah, what's the deal with your rockabilly fandom?
Oh, I'm not. Rockabilly to me is fine music. It's just never really been for me. That's all. And it was something where I had friends that worked for Victory Records. And it was always here are all these. Wow. Here's Snapcase. Here's Strife. Here's Earth Crisis.
I never liked Earth Crisis.
And the Roadburners.
Yeah, or Snapcase. I've had a buddy of mine, Joe Riley, did or does Musically Meditated. It's another music podcast. Man, he was always about those guys. And like you said, the Victory guys. Is Victory still around?
It is. They actually got bought by a major label a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So, but they were always. It was always a very interesting label, and that Snapcase was one of those bands that had one tremendous EP. Like their first record is decent. Mm-hmm. Then they have a EP called Steps, which is probably their finest work. It's 4 songs. It's just a really good definition of their style and what they did really well with guitars and reverb and such. And then they had 2 really great records. And then after that, they sort of fizzled out in the sunset, only to come up when they, need a payday. But they were always a very entertaining band to me. They weren't like Earth Crisis, where Earth Crisis was just okay, you guys have a message. That's great. Why can't you be like Los Crudos? Just sit there.
Los Crudos, there you go.
2-minute song and talk for 5 minutes.
MK Ultra, are you familiar with them?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
Like any of those Chicago hardcore bands for back in the day, I still feel a canon connection to. But I mean, I'm a big fan of the Youth Attack record label, and I try and support them by wearing their shows, their shirts when we have shows, or usually whatever band I'm into at the time, I'll usually wear wearers or something like that. I'd like to think of it like back in the day, Bill Cosby, before he was outed as a rapist. On the Cosby Show, he would always wear college sweaters.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, that's
Brown University.
Cool.
Brown.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he would have he would just constantly have, he'd be like, how many college sweaters you have? And as someone that owns probably 100 black T-shirts in my closet, I get where Cosby's going to with the T-shirt aspect, not the anything else aspect.
Why don't you have a pudding pop, Rudy? Oh. Hey, real quick, did you see Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live?
Of course, I saw Eddie Murphy, and then he brought out these other African American guys. So I had to text my friend Albert. I had to text my friend Albert asking who those other guys were. No, I thought it was great, and I thought that Kenan Thompson being up there, I thought that was good and representative. I was only hoping for a little Tim Meadows, but I'm just a completist when it comes to that stuff. But no, I thought Eddie Murphy was great. The only thing I would have changed about Eddie Murphy was I admire the fact that we got to see those old skits and segments again.
Yeah.
With the buckwheat on The Masked Singer, which was fantastic, by the way. The only thing I wish it would have had was more current songs, because my 10-year-old cackled. He laughed slightly when Buckwheat was doing the older songs, but when he hit Single Ladies, something that was done actually in the last decade, he was tackling like there's no tomorrow because it's familiar to him, you know.
Right.
Looking for love in all the wrong places. Very familiar to me and my wife. We're laughing, but the other stuff was something. It was very, very good.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I was really impressed. It was good to see Eddie doing all the old Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood was awesome. Oh man,
I just you can't really get any better than, you know. This is how we answer the door in my neighborhood, boys and girls.
Yeah.
You know.
He's like, what? It's because I'm black. No, we didn't mean to, you know, do all that. And he shuts the door and he's like, see, kids, like flips on the big screen TV. He stole the other word for the day is racist.
But he has that other word for the day up there. Like, yeah. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was definitely good to see Eddie back on there. I don't really watch much SNL anymore. I mean, I don't know. I get my comedy just through life in general because there's so much shit you can observe and watch, and it's pretty spectacular. I can't talk. Spectacular and idiotic at the same time. It makes me laugh. So I don't know. And I was a big Tim and Eric fan, and I haven't seen anything new from them in a little while. So yeah, moving on. When I like the fact that you guys that you say like when you're doing shows and like you're wearing other bands' T-shirts, like I like that. I like that support, and that's when you get like the diehards out. You know, like say if I was at a show and you know I see you wearing something and I come up and I'm like, oh hey, you know, it sparks a conversation, and you know you're getting a down ass motherfucker that's really into that, especially if it's like underground or old school punk or someone that recognizes that stuff. And I try to do the same, like, and vice versa. Like, if I'm playing my music, I'll, you know, be wearing some wrestler shirt or whoever I'm trying to support. Or if I'm doing the podcast and we're going out and we're doing live stuff, I'm wearing, you know, music, you know, band stuff. I think that's really cool, like the crossover, like DRI crossover.
Yeah. I've always thought of it like the Venn diagram for the two things I enjoy the most, besides, you know, like, you know, sex and such, was like usually the people that I can sit there and connect to on the music and punk rock level. That's like right in the center of that Venn diagram. That's very, very good. Like our boy, one of the other producers at AAW, Trent, who has the best hair out of all the producers at AAW.
He kind of looks like Kim Thale.
Yes, very much so. You know, but he has majestic hair that we just all covet. But you know, like whenever he plays his shows, he's usually wearing an AAW T-shirt or an Impact Wrestling shirt, or you know, vice versa. So like,
he's got definitely the Impact,
there's a nice
podcast.
connection there.
Yeah, Trent's good people, man.
Yeah, great guy.
So what's I mean, before you got involved with how long have you actually been involved? I should say real quick before I get into what else I was going to ask you. How long have you been involved?
It'll be 7 years in February. 7 years ago, February, I was working for Resistance Pro Wrestling.
Oh, Billy Corgan's ex-place? Well, now aren't they? Now they're like the deathmatch company, or so aren't they? Just like Resistance or whatever.
They are the Resistance, and they ran some death shows, but I haven't seen them run anything else. It's it was pretty. Do you want to hear the story of how I moved from Resistance to AAW? Because that's a fun little story, and it should take at least 4 minutes of podcast time, which is always fun.
I like a guy who knows his timing, so fucking shoot.
Okay. So the year is, God, what year was it? It was 2013. Okay. I'm working for Resistance Pro. My best friend in the business is referee PJ Drummond, a blind zebra lore referee thing.
Mr. Drummond.
We would get together. Mr. Drummond, yes. He also had two small boys and Mrs. Garrett as well. We would get together and talk about the respective companies we would work for during lunch. And it would sort of be, you know, I know Festivus was a few days ago. It would sort of be the airing of grievances of the stuff that we had. And one of the big airings of grievances I had was the fact that I was asking in Resistance Pro to be part of more of the creative aspect and writing the storylines. And I was basically told, well, Billy's here, that won't be happening. So it's sort of like, great. Like I'm sitting here trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. But whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
So while this is all going on, my dad is diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Oh shit!
It was a surprise, and just watching him pass away very quickly was making me think a lot about many different things.
Right.
So resistance, I start talking with with Mike Pekovich, one of the owners of AEW,
yep.
And he's like, no, you would be on the booking committee. You would be sitting in on all the meetings. We want to work with you. We know we can do great things together. So I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? This could be a fantastic opportunity. I'm excited to be here. They're actually going to listen to me and potentially go with some of my ideas. And so I'm going to the Resistance Pro show that we had that month that had Matt Hardy versus Robert Anthony. And I'm feeling, okay, well, let's see how the show goes. The day of the show, I'm doing my normal. I was the head commentator there at Resistance Pro, which I wasn't a big fan of because I like the person that makes the jokes about the stuff.
Yeah.
And
color.
More of the situationist. Yeah, I'm more of a color commentator than the one leading. Mm-hmm. Like there's certain people that can do lead announcing, like Tyler Gold, or they can do a great job at it. Yeah. I always felt that I would add the background to it. So anyway, I'm sitting there watching the show, and the show is fine. And I go to the locker room to grab something to drink before the main event. And I see my friend Stoney there. And my friend Stoney, I've known him for a number of years. Good guy.
A.K.A. Pauly Shore?
What's up?
A.K.A. Pauly Shore?
I wish it was. I wish he was like chilling on the weeds, but he has a little bit of grindage. So
yeah.
Buddy Weeze is dressed up.
Don't wheeze the juice.
He's dressed up like Jesus, like literally crown of thorns and everything else. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, you don't know? And I'm like, no, I have a format sheet. I don't have anything about Jesus. You dressed up like Jesus on here. He's like, oh, you'll see. So the main event is Matt Hardy versus Robert Anthony. Robert Anthony retains his Resistance Pro title. He gets low blowed by Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy leaves. All of a sudden, out of the locker room comes Jesus. Jesus comes through the crowd, comes in the ring.
Jesus comes. I can't contain myself.
Blesses the Resistance Pro Championship. Blesses Robert Anthony's groin. Everything is good. Everything is good. And I look at Billy, and Billy is right next to me in the crow's nest area as I'm doing commentary. And all of a sudden, Josephus, who works currently for Power, comes in and choke slams Jesus.
What?
And Billy is on the floor. No reason. Like, just all of a sudden someone not attacking the guy that just had his nuts bled. He's attacking Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a religious guy, but it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, cause it serves no purpose other than popping the owner, who literally is on the ground cackling, sort of putting his arms and legs up in the air, guys, sort of like a turtle on its back.
Who, Billy?
And yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Like, I wish I could show you this, because obviously the world is more than a vampire.
You ever seen Billy, pictures of him at Disneyland?
Oh, that's a great picture.
Yeah.
That's a great picture. So, like, when that happened, I was coming home that night, and I was just like, okay, I'm done here. There's no reason to go on. I'm going to take off and work for AEW. So that's how I got started. The Jesus definitely pushed me over the edge, so to speak. And considering I have 2 kids. I don't raise them Catholic. Right. I, believe in religion. I believe in God. But I'm not like, oh my God, I was offended by it because of it being Jesus. I was offended by it because it was fucking stupid.
It didn't make sense. Believe it or not, all you boys and girls out there listening, wrestling has to make sense sometimes. Otherwise, you just...
It does. Wrestling usually makes when it makes a lot more sense, it helps everyone out.
It does.
Because when wrestling doesn't make sense, you're sort of perpetuating a stereotype that this art form is stupid.
Yeah. Right. And I don't agree with that because, and that kind of leads me into something. Obviously, I mean, you had to have seen the AEW botch with the Dark Order that happened last week on Dynamite.
Yes, the guy wearing the white socks, right?
Yeah. So the Dark Order attacks the Elite and everybody, and they come out and they show, and this is really a fault of production. for all you out there to kind of pull the curtain back just a tad, if you're in the fucking truck, you have access to every camera that is hooked up. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
You would hope so.
You would hope so. You would think so. You would have a fucking little TV or a screen or something for every camera that is hooked up, because then you could be like, oh, hey, cut to camera, whatever, and so on and so forth. So they cut to the hard cam, and it's showing. I mean, it's just showing this dude. He's just punching the mat instead of dusting. And fucking Twitter and the internet wrestling community, they go ape shit. It gets real fucking toxic real fucking quick. Young Bucks leave Twitter. I don't know if it's necessarily just over that. I mean, I doubt it. Unfortunately, as much as we try to be positive on there, there's just a lot of toxic, negative pieces of shit on there. And it's one of those things where, it's hard to say in this day and age, especially right now, it's you're exposing the business, brother. Because we all know what wrestling is, but it's not a good look. And it's just one of those things where everybody's shitting on the company, and it's a mishap. Shit happens. I mean, how many times did we watch Ronda Rousey punch the air, or Sasha Banks with her air kicks and all this? It happens everywhere. It's just it's one of those things though where, man, I couldn't get over the fact that everybody was so fixated on it. I mean, it sucked. It sucked to see, but what's your take?
It's something where, and I was chatting about this earlier on. It's easier to sit there and berate something than give praise to something,
right?
And it's also a lot of times a little bit funnier to sit there and be a joke than sitting there and praise something or give credit where credit is due.
But you could still joke and praise something.
The punches look awful. In the course of a 2-hour television program, there was one mistake. It happens. It's life. No one is absolutely perfect, even if you're on network television.
Yeah.
It happens, but it's easier to sit there and knock that than to sit there and praise anything that goes on. It's Twitter basically becoming real world. Like if you're sitting there and you watch like the Game of Thrones, for instance, and Game of Thrones earlier on this year, they had the scene where there was a Starbucks cup there. No one was talking about how good the episode was.
Right.
Because it's easier to sit there and say, look how cool I am because I noticed that there was a Starbucks cup there. And it wasn't like, well, I know there was a grande decaf Americano or anything like that. So I think it's easier for a fandom to sit there and berate something rather than praise something. I mean, they'll praise something too, but the stuff people are going to remember are going to be the negative stuff. It's something where, I don't want to sound like PMA, and I don't want to sound like, like a member of the Gorilla Biscuits, to keep it back with our punk rock wrestling thing that we have earlier on.
Yep.
But it's and even for myself, there's times where I'll sit there and think of a tweet, and I'll be like, no, that's just wrong. That's not.
Yeah.
Why would I say something like this? Like, why? What does this help? Does this make me feel superior to other people? I don't need Twitter to make me feel anything about myself.
And here's the weird thing, Keith, I was telling Jeremy Tellum, a friend of the show, referee, earlier before we came to record. This is the thing that really bothers me. I told him, I was like, you know what? This will be the end of this wrestling boom. It will not boom as much as it should, or blossom as much as it should, because of supposed fans, marks, whatever you want to call them, because they're so quick to shit on something, and it's even if it's something they like. It's like going back to what you said, accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. There's not enough of that, but that's the world we live in now. And to take some from like the Bucks and, the Elite, how can you change the world if the world doesn't want to change itself? Everybody wants, they want to shit on, well, we haven't gotten this and that yet from AEW. Well, motherfuckers, it's only been 12 episodes. What do you want?
Right.
When Nitro premiered back in the day, for all you old school cats out there that were watching that, I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I was watching WCW like in the early 90s, and Nitro was a step up, but let me tell you what, in its first year until like the NWO and stuff hit, it wasn't some like dream come true. It was just there. you know, but I don't remember back in the day. And I put this tweet out there a couple weeks ago. Follow us on Twitter at JPDUB Podcast. Cha-ching. I put this out there saying, I wonder if fans were as fickle as they are today, back in the Attitude Era or the Monday Night War era days. I don't ever remember it being like that. Now, granted, we didn't have the social media platform. You know, there were the internet kind of had a few like chat boards and chat rooms and whatever, but I felt more love as a quote unquote hashtag wrestling community than I fucking do now, where it's way oversaturated. There's so much there. Yeah. It's craft beer, man. You don't fucking like Three Floyds, go drink Revolution, and vice versa. You don't like that, go drink something else. You know, like wrestling is the same. You don't need to sit there and dwell on what sucks, because guess what? The be-all, end-all isn't WWE. Independent wrestling in this day and age, in the last couple of years, has proved that it is a viable commodity as far as professional wrestling goes. You know, you don't need Vinnie Mac's fucking playground to have a good time. Now, granted, it's fun to always go back because, let's be honest, most of us came from that as like kids, you know, watching it. You know, depending where you're from, you know, geographically, you know, maybe some people down the South who came from like, you know, Georgia or Mid-South wrestling and all NWA and all that. But all that aside, like a lot of us, you know, WWF is the reason why we love fucking wrestling. And what I'm getting at is fans have to evolve like the product has evolved. And the product has evolved, that's the problem. The fans haven't. You know, and I'm sorry to say it and call a lot of people out, but it's the fucking truth. And sometimes the juice hurts.
Oh, do you want me to sing some Lizzo right now? No,
please. Are we back on SNL?
It seems like we are. Yeah. Well, the other thing you got to remember with Twitter giving everyone a voice, and now so many people get their news and views off from Twitter, where it's sort of like, you know, a lot of times you're taking someone's opinion as their news. You know, it's okay to argue. It's okay to debate and stuff like that. Yeah. But at times it just seems like, you know, like for instance, I want to say last week, Dave Meltzer said something about Chris Stratlander and not being convincing as an alien or said something about that. And basically all these people went off, you know, not off on Dave, but would mention stuff like that. It's one guy's fucking opinion, guys.
Right, yeah.
Like we can all relax and chill out about this and just let's sit there and just your opinion is different than Dave. You know what? That's fine. You're absolutely entitled to it. But it doesn't need to be some sort of weird, you know, plotting attack. You know, don't hang on someone's every single word of what they say and sit there and try and correct them. Mm-hmm. Everyone has faults. Nobody's perfect, guys. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this. But you wanting to correct someone for everything isn't going to be good when you are the one that does something wrong.
It's people don't, and this goes for a lot of things in life, not just wrestling. They nowadays they don't, and this is probably happened for a long time. They don't take other people's opinions into consideration and use that as thought and provocation into maybe either bettering an understanding of where something or someone is coming from. You know, they just immediately hear something and like, no, that's not what I like. You know, I don't know. I'm a fucking Libra. I don't necessarily believe in all that astrological whatever shit, but I do try to find balance in like everything in life, man. I really do. And it just seems like people will hear shit one way or another, and that's it. Without using, you know, like, hey, man, I love Uncle Dave, man. Dave Meltzer, there's a lot of his opinions that are valid because he's been around the business. But it's, hey, keyword opinions. It's his opinions. You don't have to like it. You don't have to hate it. It's okay. Let me cough a little and allow me to give my opinion about these things. Keith, Juice, you guys interrupt as you see fit. Dave Meltzer is one man with one opinion, and it is 100% okay if you don't like some of the things he says. You don't have to set the world on fire
because he said one thing that you don't like. He's a man with opinions and who's found an audience that respects him and saves time in their lives when they want to watch the army of good content out there. I think that our attention spans are short. So this whole thing with the AW Punch, yeah, they're going to be on that. And then there's going to be a new thing. So big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Now there's so many good indie promotions. Like I'm the voice of the new guy and the new fan of wrestling, not the evolved fan. I'm a caveman brain. I like what I like. I like theatricality. I like athleticism. I like stories being told. I like all these different things. I also, one of the things that I repeat constantly is if you go to a live show, the open arms nature of most of the people around you is borderline overwhelming. But what I mean to say by that in a parallel is like when you there's like Twitter is it's 140 characters, so it's a lot of reflexive, passionate reaction to things. But when you go into like when you watch something or when you like we like to not, so this is the longest we've ever gone trying to go a little in depth into something that kind of it's not shitting on things, but it's not that positive thing where we like to, like, we definitely like to talk about what we like to talk about because there's so much cool shit out there. That's why, like Keith, that's why Justin gets so excited when he wants to talk about music with you because he's a music guy. You're a music guy, like,
right.
And then he's a wrestling guy. You're a wrestling guy, like. It's
common ground.
Yeah, it's common ground. It's the Venn diagram crossing in a big way in multiple places. Where like, so we try. There are more of us that try to be positive about stuff than those on Twitter that talk about some bad punch segment or something that was 1 second of a 2-hour show that has another 11 hours of stuff.
But that's the only thing people remember from that show.
But it's but I mean,
Stupid.
I didn't even know about it, but also I don't fuck with Twitter that much. But the thing is, like, so like earlier when we were talking about Marty and Sarah, like they have their own podcast.
Yeah.
And one thing that I compliment them on is the fact that there's so much good shit out there. Find the stuff you like, attach yourself to the stuff and people you like, and enjoy liking that shit. There's plenty of stuff in life that's going to knock you on your ass. Why don't you just like the stuff you like and be proud of the stuff you like, whatever that is?
But that's not as fun as me making fun of a promotion for doing bad punches. You know, like that's the problem is where people just that
gossip is fun.
About, you know, and also, guys, it's not like there's not 1,000 shows running right now as we speak on Christmas Day. And I know I already made that joke, but I don't care. Like there's so much wrestling out there. Let's talk about that as opposed to other stuff. Like if it's really bad, you know, cancel culture. If it's really bad, it'll be found out. But you just don't, you know, just try not to be an asshole. It's not hard. It's something where I think both myself and Juice on this podcast have done a very good job at not being assholes during it. So,
yeah, Keith, I want to ask you a question real quick. So other than obviously AAW, which you know comes first. What's some of your, like, if you had to give me like your top 5, because there's this plethora of professional wrestling out there right now. What's like your top 5 favorite promotions to watch?
Let's see. Great question. New Japan Pro Wrestling would be towards the top. But you know, and I could be like that internet person being like, well, you know, this year wasn't as good as 2 years ago.
Hang up the phone right now. Hang up.
But I still think New Japan is doing a solid job, and I'm very looking forward to both of those shows coming up.
The Wrestle Kingdom.
I also enjoy PWG. I like watching the PWG. There's a lot of Beyond. I enjoy their Thursday night shows. Like I've always enjoyed Drew's work, and I think Beyond has done a really good job in breaking guys on the scene. So like that's another promotion that I watch. I mean, I still find myself attracted to the two biggest promotions that drew me in as a fan, and that would probably be, you know, old WCW stuff, and then old all Japan Pro Wrestling. Like those are probably like the 3 biggest promotions and biggest inspirations on me. Although, you know, I'll also spend some time going through. I recently rewatched WWE in 1991. I basically went through all the pay-per-views and anything that I could find on the network from 99, from 91 from WWE. So my tastes are all over the place. You know,
I like that. And that's much like me. It's man, it's awesome, man. You know, salad days, salad toss days. Shitty minor threat joke. It's cool.
I enjoyed it.
It's cool, man, because it's just, you know, there's so much out there to like, and I love that old school shit too, man. Like we just had a guy, Eli the Eliminator, on episode 89. It was cool to go, and he was in studio. He's a local guy, like local legend, even though he's not like some superstar. You know, you say Hulk Hogan, everybody knows, and they're not gonna know. Not everybody's gonna know Eli the Eliminator, but you know, he used to run with Sam DeCero back in like Windy City Pro and the WWA down in Indianapolis, WCCW, worked with the Von Erichs, Abdullah the Butcher, Bruiser Brody. Like, to have him in studio and like telling us these stories about hanging with these dudes, and like you could just like, it gave me the feels, you know, like shout out to him, because it was, dude, like to have somebody like that. I love that old school shit. Like, I kept telling him, like, as a kid, I would read these old PWIs, and there's just something about it. Like, even the old advertising, remember, it just have like some hairy buff dude flexing. It's like, get the body like this. Perfect.
I remember being in high school and seeing an ad on the back for Wrestling Illustrated for the Nikita Koloff School of Wrestling.
Yes.
In beautiful, I forget where it was in North Carolina. It wasn't in Chapel Hill, though. And looking to find if there was a college somewhere around there, so I could potentially go to college out of state in North Carolina. Why? So I could go to the Nikita Koloff School of Wrestling and learn how to do a thick-ass Russian sickle.
Yeah, the Russian Nightmare. Dude, he was awesome, man. Nikita was one of my favorites back in the day. One of my favorite American portraying a Soviet characters in professional wrestling.
When it comes to fake Russians, he was towards the top of the card.
Oh yeah,
easily.
for sure. And he was Goldberg for me before Goldberg. Like, I always thought when I first saw Goldberg, I always thought Nikita for some reason, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Nikita had that good build, like in his prime, dude. He was jacked. He was mean, dude. He was like, you believe that, man, this dude would tear you the fuck apart, dude. It was great. I love that old shit in the early WCW days. We had a guy on too. What was his name? He worked for WCW back in the early '90s. Remember Sret? Now I feel like no, it wasn't Bill. We've had a lot of guests on here. Anyway, I totally.
Was it a worker, or was it someone
he was like
Gary Michael Capetta?
No, he was like PR.
Oh wow.
Barry Norman. I'm sorry.
Barry.
Sorry. Yeah, he was PR from, like, what was it, 91 to 96 or something. So he was there for a lot. He was the guy that set up like Sting and RoboCop and all that shit, you know. Man, he had a lot of really cool stories to talk about, and you know, all spending time with all these legends. Like, I really like getting into that stuff with those guys, like that old school stuff, and you know, like the stuff that you admired like as a kid, and you know, now that you know you're involved in the business now that you're older. So when you do meet these guys, and even like the up and coming guys, not that you're per se like marking out, but I'm sure there's a part of you like, dude, I'll be honest with you, I try to play it cool, like it's, you know, when I talk to these dudes or anybody in the biz, it's just like, yeah, hey, what's up? You know, you're just like another dude. No offense, I don't mean anything negative by that, but you know, just to kind of bring it down a level so they're comfortable, you're comfortable. You're not like just some supermarket and like freaking out, because a lot of these people I have talked to, it's like, wow, I'm sitting there like I never would have thought in a million years that I could just pick up my phone and when I was a kid and like call Sabu or call Bill Alfonso, you know, like it's just Sid Vicious, like it's mind boggling, you know. That's the great thing about pro wrestling, man. And now that I brought like Sretton back into the fold, he was a fan back in the day in like the NWO days, and now when we started doing this podcast, I'm like, hey man, like I know you watched wrestling before, but this is what's happening now, and it's gonna fucking blow up again. Even if it doesn't, this is gonna be one hell of a ride, because there's a lot of promotions doing a lot of cool shit. It is like the best entertainment you can find, you know.
Yeah, I talk about so allow me to blow a little smoke up AAW's ass for the Saturday event.
Do
it. It is wintertime in Chicago, and people bitch about and complain about there's nothing to do or I'm bored or whatever. This is exactly the thing you do if you want 3 hours of absolute entertainment. Everybody, every match on this card is going to be fun as hell. You will not leave the building not smiling. It's also a very cool venue. It's easy to get to, whether you live in fucking Wisconsin, whether you live in Northwest Indiana. It's actually not a bad drive if you're in Indianapolis, if you want to come up. Like almost everywhere you go, this is kind of like, because it's closer to Midway where this area is. If you're in the Chicago suburbs, it's a perfect location. But the bottom line is like, this is good. Like this is entertainment, and it's way more affordable than if you want to go see stupid Hamilton, which I don't know if you like Hamilton or not. That's your problem. Anyways, yeah, it's going to be a very good event. It's a wintertime frost killer, and even though this winter hasn't been so bad, yeah, I'm a huge fan of what you guys do. I'm actually. I didn't get to see the card until a day or two ago, and then Wallace sent me that final card for Saturday, and I knew. So on this whole card, I listed all the different performers, all the different wrestlers, and I don't know maybe 3 or 4 of them. And as a new person, I got excited by each name because I've got to see these people, and they murder each other every time they do stuff. And I don't know how you feel about it, Keith. But I just wanted to say that. It might have derailed the podcast maybe minorly.
No, not at all. I'm going to put a tweet about it, talking about the podcast. So I'll do it now. I appreciate the praise, and I appreciate being part of AEW and really giving the people what they want, which is great wrestling, compelling storylines, great characters, and some of those characters and storylines will be coming to end this Saturday night, and you're able to watch it via the wizardry on the internet known as Fight TV. And if you're in the Chicagoland area, it's going to be a packed house, but you should come on out because it's an experience like none other. So yeah, I think it's a really, really solid card. And the fact it is our big yearly showcase card, this is our Starrcade. But it's not Starrcade Battle Bowl 91.
I love the Battle Bowl.
Huge event.
I do think it's a bit like it is a huge deal that maybe, those that in the know that 15 years, like the 15-year anniversary, that's a huge deal because I do believe that as a new guy to it, as a person that's reignited their enjoyment of this world, of the pro wrestling world, I do believe that there's a resurgence now, because of AEW, because of all these indie promotions, because of the internet, because of a bunch of stuff. But man, every time I go to a show, which still I think I might have entered double digits finally, but I don't leave one of these shows. I lose my voice most of the time because I'm screaming. I'm worried. I'm hyped. I'm sweaty. We just got done watching Warrior Wrestling like a week ago. It'll be a week, like 2 days ago that we went to the last Warrior Wrestling show, and the main event. I'm telling you, man, I almost had to change my shirt. I was sweating so much. The performances were so amazing that I don't even know how to put it to words. But every single person from start to finish, for almost every one of these events that I've been to, it's like they used to say. I used to hear the words like, "Hey, you want to watch like a good live sporting event? Go to a hockey match." Like it doesn't translate. It doesn't translate on TV. It's not that exciting. Like that's the one that you go like ape shit when you go in real life. I believe that wrestling translates. It's the only one that translates on a high level if you watch it on television and if you watch it in real life. Like both of them are almost just as exciting, and they're two different animals.
They are.
Which is crazy. Like at this point, when I go to my friends and family and I'm like, hey man, there's a wrestling show this Saturday. You want to come with me? I'm like 3 or 4 steps away from them doing some sort of wrestling intervention with me. because it's been like, I mean, it's entertainment. I like being entertained. I don't want to sit at home and pick my nose and talk about how boring life is. I don't want to get on Twitter and social media and complain about this and that. I like liking stuff, and this is something that I like. And that's my 35-minute spiel. Yeah. I'm going to shut the fuck up now.
Get the fuck out! Yeah, and AAW, I mean, you guys have been going 15 years, if I'm not mistaken, with the fall of Windy City Pro, which I heard they got bought out, but there's some clown running it, and it's just not legit anymore. I mean, you guys are like the longest-running promotion in the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. You know?
We are.
So, I mean, that's
the granddaddies as they were.
Yeah. And that's pretty cool. I mean, we need shit like that, especially in a city like Chicago, which is the melting pot, in my opinion, of professional wrestling as of late. I mean, if it wasn't,
the greatest wrestling city in North America is without a doubt, and maybe even in the world, is Chicago, Illinois.
That's right.
The best fans in the world, the most opinionated fans of the world. God bless them. Chicago is such a wonderful wrestling town. Always been a wrestling town. When NWA was back in the day, they
Steamboat
were here
Flair, man.
as well. Yeah, I went to college at the University of Illinois at Chicago because of the fact I knew it because I used to go to NWA shows at Pavilion back in the day. There's so much wonderful history, wrestling history in this town, and we've done what we can to make Chicago a place where people want to come. When I was before AEW was around as such, I was just striving to try and find independent wrestling shows. I remember my first independent show was up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the year 2000. And I met a young man by the name of CM Punk and Cole Cabana up at that show. So, it's something where for a long time now, it's been something where Chicago has become, there's a bunch of companies running here. No other company, though, has the breadth of talent that we at AEW have. And we want to give you guys the best show possible. We try and make our shows consistent. We try and make our shows not feel like a chore to sit through. And we try and sit there and spice things up with some comedy, with some, without a doubt, the best independent wrestlers available to us financially today. So it's something where we have a huge show coming up this Saturday night. And if you can't be there live, you can easily be there through our friends at Smart Mark Video and Fight TV.
Right.
So you could see 4 huge championship title matches. Josh Alexander defending the AEW Heavyweight Championship that he won 2 months ago from Sami Callihan versus the unbeaten Jacob Fatu.
Who is the current reigning defending MLW champion, by the way. I'll just throw that in there. That's pretty huge.
Yeah, he's an incredible talent. He is a gifted Samoan, and it's something where I'm curious to see how these two guys mesh up in styles because I enjoy both of their work. It's hard-hitting. It's incredibly physical, and most importantly, it's for the richest prize in American independence, that being the AEW Heavyweight Championship. Also, you have Chicago's favorite underdog, Paco Gonzalez, defending the AEW Heritage title.
I love that video, by the way. Was that you?
Oh, no, that is actually there's a member of the staff, Rob Malkowski, better known as Polish Rob, who does those videos. He actually a few days ago released a 20-minute one on the besties, and it's definitely worth checking out. His videos, I think, add a new dynamic. I would want to say he's the best video person in the business since Giancarlo left to go to the WWE. Rob does an amazing job in these videos. Usually during the course of the show, Rob's in one other of the building getting his interviews done, and I'm getting my stuff done. So, but yeah, Paco defending the belt against Hakeem Zayn, Jessica Havoc versus Chris Statlander in a women's championship rematch based off the last show. And then, of course, the besties in the world, Davey Vega and Matt Fitchett, without a doubt, one of the best independent teams in the world today, are going to be going up against Sami Callihan, the draw, and Jake Christ, which should be a fantastic tag team match. Also have a dog collar match. Wrestling implodes with a Bourbon Street fight with Eddie Kingston and David Starr versus Chris Stallion and Jake Something. The high end, who's a talent that I think we're going to hear a lot about over the next few years, will be making her AEW debut. facing former AEW Women's Champion Kimberly. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier on the show, Killer Cross versus Matt Justice, which if you see them coming anywhere near you and you're at 115 Bourbon Street, get out of the way.
Get the fuck out the way. Oh, man. That's so great. That's a fucking stat card. And you guys, we've reiterated this so much. Sorry, the zombie dust is kicking in now. About if you can't attend, watch on the Fight app. That's so great on the phone to have that. I got that shit on my phone to take that anywhere, literally anywhere. So you're not just you're not stuck to your tablet anymore or your laptop. Like your fucking cell phone. Download the app, buy the pay-per-view, and then watch it on the go anywhere.
It's great. You know, you can watch it at your speed. You know, you don't have to sit there, go on Twitter and keep on hitting refresh to sit there and find it. Like it opens up an opportunity to get across to more homes and to be seen by more people. So I'm excited about this wonderful opportunity that we have with Fight, which I hope is the first of many shows that we have on Fight, because I think the idea is that where it's taking the local out of our promotion and being able to be seen in, you know, so many different households. Like it's very cool to me to find people that actually post showing me that they, you know, have it purchased and they're ready for this Saturday night. So it's going to be, it's a big night for us. It's a big night for Chicago independent wrestling. It's a big night for the end of 2019 in AEW, which saw so many twists and turns. I mean, you know, if you sat there and told me a year ago what would happen to independent wrestling in 2019, I'd be like, say what? But like, you know, it just had so many wonderful things happen. You know, like 2 or 3 years ago, the big concern was, okay, well, you know, WWE seems to be signing a lot of people. This year it was like, well, I don't know if they're going to the WWE or AEW, but it just seems like, you know, independence is pumping out so many good talents right now. And there's a lot of good talent that's still available and out there.
Well, that's the thing we've talked about, and not to interrupt you, Keith, I'm sorry. We talked about this a lot on the show. It's professional wrestling nowadays is fueled by the independent scene, which, I mean, it always kind of has been, but there is so much fucking talent that, oh, great, go ahead, sign everybody. WWE, AEW, take them. Do it. Guess what? There's going to be that next crop is going to pop up real fucking quick. And that's the amazing thing about it, dude. Like, they're just fucking everywhere. The athleticism, the creativity, the characters, the gimmicks, like the total packages, they're all out there. That's the great thing that indie wrestling has now. That, I'm sorry, WWE, your fucking performance center, just can't do it. You know, they wanted to try to do that, and they still have that there for, you know, for when they sign the indie guys, you know, your Roderick Strongs or whoever, so they can train them in their way of wrestling, and that's fine. That's great. But the indies, man, they just keep pumping them out. I've never seen a time in pro wrestling like there is right now for the indies are just feeding. They're not only feeding themselves, but they're feeding the mainstream promotions, and there's enough for everybody to get seconds, thirds, and fourths.
Delicious.
Delicious. They're Street Fighter. Perfect.
Delicious.
Oh, shit. Hey, Keith, real quick, tell everybody where they can find you and AAW at online.
Sure, definitely. I mean, the easiest place to go on it is, of course, the Twitter machine at AAW Pro. You can hit me up. I'm Keith Lipinski at Twitter.com. Like, those are the best places to find out the updated matches, the released promos, videos, and everything else. Definitely YouTube/AAW Pro as well, because we usually do a nice match of the week. The home of AAW Films, to make us seem like a bunch of pretentious assholes. Great band, by the way, from Florida. Yes. There's a lot of great places to catch AAW, but the most important thing, though, to remember is this Saturday night. Huge show, lots of ramifications for the future, and just it's a big step. We're going to try and put our finest foot forward for this to make a lasting impression, to show people what people in Chicago have known for years, that when it comes to independent professional wrestling, in the United States, AEW is one of the top promotions out there. So
I'll cheers that. And we'll be watching. If we can't make it there, I'm going to try to make it out. If I can't, I got kids, so I'm a family man, as you know. Sometimes that's why a lot of my dreams get crushed is because of my niños. But whatever, it's all worth it. If not, I'll pay the money and I'll watch it on Fight. Ain't no doubt about that. So I'm pumped, and I hope all you out there listening are pumped to watch this as well. It's going to be a fucking amazing card. Keith, I thank you very much for coming on and being the last guest of 2019 and the decade for the JPDUB, man. It's been an honor.
Last guest of the decade.
Yes. What was Hulk Hogan?
This means I get a Chrysler Cordova because of being
Not from us.
Not from us. We are fucking broke. We're broke. Until we get that diaper, the Pampers sponsor.
That's right.
I'm going to have some kids. Fuck it, I'll have 12 more kids if they, start pumping out that money. I don't give a fuck.
Diapers and Pampers.
Yeah. I love it. Hey, thank you all out there for listening. We hope you have a great Christmas. Have a great New Year's.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
The most Was that your dancing Christmas? Light you up like Christmas.
I believe that was. I just made an Oz Rotten reference.
Oh, Oz Rotten. Okay.
Ending up 2019 with a From the System Works for Them record. A very wow.
There you go.
Sorry, I went really deep on that last one. But everybody, thank you for listening. And guys, seriously, thanks for having me on. I'd be pleased to come on at any time and ruin your podcast.
Well, hey, man, you can't ruin it any more than we already do, Yeah,
we're a self-sabotager.
This is true.
Yeah. And for all you out there listening, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And be sure to follow us on any podcasting platform and social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There's one more thing we got to do, Keith. We got to wet 'em up, wet 'em up, wet 'em up. I'm so fucking wet for AAW. Yeah. You gonna do sex to me?